Okay, so this is Frank the Tank and Mixmaster Mitchka here, and we're going to be talking about three perception-altering substances: alcohol, marijuana, and the general topic of hallucinogens. So I guess we'll just get started here. Okay, so alcohol is viewed by the body as a poison. So because of this, the liver tries to break it down into things that the body can actually use. So when you consume alcohol, it's broken down by the liver by enzymes called alcohol dehydrogenase. I don't know how to say that word. It's really weird. Okay, so we have the process of which it's broken down into. So first, it's converted to acetaldehyde, which is the hangover drug, then to acetic acids, and then eventually to fatty acids, CO2, and water, which your body can actually use. This is the formula for the representation of how it's broken down by the enzymes in your liver. So over here on the far left, it starts out with alcohol as you consume it. Then it shows the process of it being broken down into acetaldehyde, then again into acetate. And then it doesn't show it, but after that, the fatty acids and the CO2 and water.
Okay, so at some point, alcohol can no longer be broken down by the liver when consumed in excess. So at that point, it starts going directly into the bloodstream, raising the blood alcohol level, which is the sensation called being drunk. The U.S. defines drunk as a blood alcohol content at 0.08.
What drunk is whenever the alcohol goes into the brain and it starts to slow all of your mental processes. So it slows down your brain cells. So you can still function and everything like normally, just everything is slower because it slows down the signals being sent. So it makes you not be able to think as quickly, to use your motor functions as fast.
And lowers your inhibitions.
It just affects your body by making you slower. Okay, so alcohol affects your neurotransmitters. So basically, it slows down the signals being sent by your neurotransmitters to the rest of your body to tell it what to do. So the more alcohol you drink, the more GABA, which is a chemical, not actually a transmitter. It stands for gamma aminobutyric acid. And that basically, it slows down the responses from your body after you send those signals. So you get a reduction in executive function, judgment, like decision making. It causes you to be less inhibited. You're tempted to take more risks and such. So there's basically a break between like what your brain tells you to do and what is actually happening at the time. So that's why people tend to, like when they drink and drive, they tend to miscalculate the distance between cars, or think they can make a turn that they can't, because there's a frame limit between what your eyes see and what your brain has time to tell the rest of your body to do, due to this chemical GABA slowing down all those processes. Our next topic.
Okay, so our next topic is marijuana. So, marijuana is mainly smoked because of the primary drug THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol. The brain has receptors called CB1s located in our brain, or located in the hippocampus, which is the desire region of our brain.
So the CB1 receptor, whenever you smoke marijuana, the THC's effect on the CB1, that's where you get the feeling of being high.
The funny thing, though, is that the brain actually already produces cannabinoids in minute quantities, which bind to the CB1 receptors in our brain. So marijuana kind of like acts as an overstimulant for the CB1 receptors with THC. The reason that the brain produces cannabinoids is because that's what gives us our desire to eat foods. So that's why whenever you smoke marijuana, you get what's called the munchies.
The THC basically acts like a cannabinoid in itself. It imitates the cannabinoid, which causes it to stimulate the CB1, making you hungry. So it overstimulates your CB1 receptor and causes you to feel hungrier, because that's one of the functions of the CB1 is it controls hunger. You sound stupid when you're high. That's a thing. Because of the CB1's function to process short-term memory and spatial navigation. So when you smoke pot, it disrupts that transmitter, so it basically causes artificial brain damage for a short amount of time, because you don't have the ability to use this transmitter as if you were not on pot. When you forget what you're saying because of the short-term memory part of the CB1, it's not because you forgot, like when you can't finish a sentence. It's because your brain never actually stored what you were going to say in your short-term memory due to the overstimulation of the CB1 and it not functioning properly.
So, a result of smoking marijuana and increasing your THC levels, you also, in the process, create dopamine, or lots of more dopamine in your body.
So, it's released during times of sexual intercourse, when you eat food, just things that make you happy cause you to release dopamine. So whenever you experience joy, anything that causes you to be happy causes the release of dopamine. So dopamine is kind of both good and bad. So dopamine makes you feel happy, but at the same time, when you have too much dopamine, it can cause you to become addicted. So yeah, you can be addicted to pot, but it won't cause you to have the same withdrawals as something like heroin or cocaine would cause you to have. But also, because THC in marijuana causes you to produce higher levels of dopamine.
Dopamine is theorized to be the source of addiction, seeing as how many drugs produces increased dopamine levels. So, marijuana currently is high in controversy because people believe it has a lot of medical applications. For instance, marijuana can give people the munchies, say for if they're not able to eat. Like a lot of cancer patients are not able to eat food most times, and this kind of helps them give that desire.
So, while researching hallucinogens, we found that they couldn't do human trials, so the scientists did trials on animals. However, trials on animals didn't always have an effect, so they weren't able to do very much study on it. But they did develop some theory based on the effect it did have on mice and other small animals. So what we're going to be talking about is based more on theory that they developed rather than the facts they've actually discovered through their experiments.
Okay, so hallucinogens are believed to produce their effects by acting on the neuroreceptors 5-HT that use the neurotransmitter serotonin. They specifically affect the prefrontal cortex area, which is the source of where our mood and cognition and perception is regulated. Serotonin generally is the drug that in our brain that regulates our general sense of well-being and our happiness, hence why hallucinogens are highly unpredictable and can lead to good or very dangerous experiences.
So you see images, you hear sounds, and you have feelings that, they seem real, but they don't actually exist. So after you take a hallucinogen, you start to feel the effects about 20 to maybe 90 minutes after ingestion. It can last up to 12 hours. So they're unpredictable, which is also the reason why that scientists wouldn't test on human trials, due to the unpredictability of it. They didn't know whether the patients would have a good or a bad trip. It all just depends on the mood, personality, expectations of the trip, like of the drug, what you expect to happen, and your surroundings. What the hallucinogen does is it overstimulates the 5-HT receptor, and that causes you to have a heightened sense of stress and panic. So basically, you overreact to things that aren't that big of a deal, and it causes you to freak out about them quite a bit. So
Basically, it takes everything to the extreme.
yes, it takes everything to the extreme. You panic, you stress out about everything. It's not fun. It's just not fun. So experiences are referred to as trips, and they vary based on the amount of the drug ingested, the user's personality, mood, and surroundings. So what it does is it intensifies your feelings due to the 5-HT receptors, it overstimulating them. It changes the way you regulate emotions. Also, at the same time, it mixes your senses. So say if somebody claps, then you can see the sound waves coming off of them. So like, or you can hear what a color sounds like. Here we go. These are pictures of what it would be like. So you can see how vibrant these colors are, how bright they are.
If you notice, eyes are a prominent thing. This is from the sense of paranoia that you obtain, or also the sense of all-knowing, because hallucinogen users tend to get this omniscient experience and think that it allows them to take in massive amounts of information. Funny thing is, these pictures were actually drawn by a character named Alex Gray, who experimented, and these are things that he actually saw. The picture on the right is a symbol of enlightenment through death, which in some cases on hallucinogens, some people tend to have a near-death experience, and they come back thinking they have more information than they left.